Hey guys, it's Andy. It's good to be back with you again as we continue our series of God time devotionals going through the book of Mark. I want you to know that I love this particular passage. It is one of my favorites. And I want to begin by asking you a question. If you'd been the father in this situation, in this story, how would you have responded to Jesus' words in verse 23 when Jesus asks him, "If you can, everything is possible for him who believes." Now, in front of a huge crowd, if you'd been this father, what would you have said? What would you have done? Would you have pretended that you believed? Would you have faked that you had more faith than you actually had? I think many of us probably would have given Jesus the answer we thought Jesus wanted to hear. But that's not what the father in the story does. From the depths of his soul, he cries out to Jesus and tells him the truth of what's going on in his heart. He says, "I do believe. Help me overcome my unbelief." I think so many of us can relate to the Father's words. We have faith, and yet we also have doubt. This is what makes the honesty of the Father in the story so refreshing. Sometimes, in the midst of our doubts, in the midst of unanswered prayers, we try to fake how much faith we have. We do this to God, we do this to others, we even do it to ourselves. We pretend that we know something is going to happen, when in reality, we just hope something is going to happen. We've heard it said that if we have any doubts, God won't answer our prayers. And so we try to convince ourselves that we just don't have any of them. This is something that my wife Becky and I wrestled with when we were going through our own struggles with infertility. There was a part of us that wondered if the fact that we hadn't received the answers to our prayers, we wondered if that was evidence that we didn't have enough faith in the midst of a situation where God was saying, "You need to just trust me." There were moments where we felt as if God was disappointed with us because we didn't believe in Him enough or trust Him enough. I want to encourage you to reject that line of thinking. When you are faced with unanswered prayers and you're beginning to doubt that God will ever answer your prayer, don't feel guilty about your doubts. Just remember that anytime you come to God in prayer, you're demonstrating that in the midst of all your doubts, you still have faith in Him. And while some passages in the Bible describe faith in terms of certainty, in Matthew 17, which is a parallel passage to this one in Mark 9, when Jesus talked about faith to his disciples, he told them, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, nothing will be impossible for you." You see, what Jesus wants us to understand is that faith isn't about having no doubts, it's about trusting God in the midst of our doubts. The father in the story reminds us that it isn't about how much faith you have, it's about what you do with the faith that you have right now. The boy's father didn't have 100% confidence that Jesus could heal his son, but despite his doubts, he used whatever percentage of faith that he did have and he brought his son to Jesus. The quality of the father's faith might not have been perfect, but he made a great decision by putting his trust and his faith in Jesus. In your own life, you might only have the faith of a mustard seed. But the question is, what will you do with your faith? Where will you plant it? Remember, it isn't about how big your faith is, it's about how big your God is. And our God loves to answer our prayers.